We've all been a child, but have you ever stopped to think about what makes that time in our lives so incredibly important? It's not just some phase we grow out of, right? It's the time that literally builds the person we're going to be. So today, we're going to dive deep into the blueprint of a human life, and guess what? It all starts right there, in childhood. And really, our source material just nails it with this quote. Think about that for a second. The foundation of life is laid. It's not just about getting older, it's about building the very structure that the rest of our life is going to stand on. The blueprint for who we are is drafted in those early years. So, okay, that brings us to the big question, the one we're really here to unpack. Why? Why is it so critical? What is actually going on during those years that has such a massive, lasting impact on the person we eventually become? All right, here's our game plan. First up, we'll define what we mean by the foundation stage. Then we'll get into the 4 crucial pillars of growth. After that, we'll look at the big players, family and school, and how they shape us. We'll touch on some common challenges, and then wrap it all up by connecting childhood directly to adulthood. Let's do it. Okay, first section, childhood, the foundation stage. So, to kick things off, what are we really talking about when we say childhood? Let's lock in a clear definition. So here it is. We're talking about that amazing window of time from the early years right up to adolescence. And the key word here is rapid. Development isn't just happening. No, it's happening at a staggering pace across the board. Physically, mentally, emotionally, and socially. It's a total transformation. And it helps to break this whole period down into 2 main stages. First, you've got early childhood. Think of those preschool years full of discovery. And then comes late childhood, which is basically the school years. And each of these phases, they come with their own totally unique set of developmental leaps and bounds. All right, section 2, the 4 pillars of growth. So all this crazy fast development, where does it happen? Well, it unfolds across 4 key areas, and you can really think of them as the 4 fundamental pillars that hold up a child's entire growth. Let's start with the first pillar, and it's the one we can all see with our own eyes. Physical development. And this is so much more than just kids shooting up in height and getting bigger. It's really about this amazing, incredible process of them learning to master their own bodies. And when you look closer, this physical growth is pretty complex. It's not just about height and weight. It's about developing motor coordination, learning how to run and jump without falling over. And it's about muscle control, the fine-tuned stuff, like learning how to hold a crayon. It's incredible. And of course, none of this can happen without the right fuel from good nutrition. Okay, so we've covered the body. Now let's move to the mind. Our second pillar is cognitive development. And this is where a child's ability to think, to reason, and to just make sense of the world around them absolutely explodes. Which brings up a really interesting question, right? Does play actually help kids learn? Is it just them having fun, a distraction, or is it something more? Well, the answer is a huge yes. It's not just something more, it's absolutely fundamental. You have to understand, play isn't the opposite of learning for a child. For a child, play is learning. Just think about what's really happening when a kid plays. They're not just stacking blocks to pass the time. They're figuring out concepts like balance and gravity. That's problem solving. When they're making up stories with their toys, that's language development. All of it, memory, reasoning, you name it, it's all happening during play. They're building this incredible toolkit of cognitive skills they'll use for the rest of their lives. All right, on to our third pillar, and this one is all about feelings. We're talking about emotional development. This is basically the journey a child takes from having these raw, kind of overwhelming emotions to developing a more organized and manageable inner world. And this is such a delicate balancing act for a kid. They have to learn how to actually express what they're feeling, right? But at the same time, they're learning how to control those big emotions so they don't get swept away. And having that sense of security, usually from a stable family environment, is the anchor that makes this whole process possible. And that sense of security at home is what allows them to step out into the world, which brings us perfectly to our 4th and final pillar, social development. This is the moment a child's world starts to expand beyond just the family. They're learning to navigate a much, much bigger social landscape. And this is where they learn all the essentials, right? Through playing with other kids at the park or at school, they figure out peer interaction. They learn about cooperation, how to share, how to take turns. And maybe most importantly, they start to understand all those unwritten social rules. It's basically learning how to be part of a group. Okay, section 3, family, school, and self. So we've got these 4 amazing pillars of growth. But where does all this development actually take place? Well, we've mentioned the 2 biggest arenas, family and school. Let's take a closer look at the massive influence these environments have. Think of it like this. The family is a child's first school. It's where the absolute core of their personality, their habits, their values, and that all-important emotional security gets formed. Then, school comes along and builds on that foundation. It expands their world, builds their confidence, and teaches them new social skills and discipline. They're a team. One really can't do its job without the other. Now for section 4, navigating common challenges. It's so easy to look back and idealize childhood, isn't it? But we have to remember, it's not always a smooth ride. It comes with its own set of very real hurdles and challenges. I mean, kids are constantly navigating these really complex feelings: fear, anxiety, even aggression. They're dealing with adjustment issues as their world changes. This is where their emotional and social development really gets put to the test. But here's the key. With the right support and guidance, these hurdles don't have to become roadblocks. Instead, they can become these incredibly powerful learning experiences that build resilience. And that brings us to our final section, the root of adulthood. So we've looked at the pillars, the environments, the challenges, and it all brings us right back to our big central question: why does all of this matter so much for the adult that this child is going to become? And honestly, this simple metaphor from our source material just says it all, doesn't it? Childhood is the root of adulthood. The person we are today grew directly from the roots of the child we once were. And the metaphor is just so powerful and direct. I mean, think about it. A massive tree can't grow strong and tall if its roots are weak or damaged, right? Well, it's the same for us. An adult is going to struggle if their childhood foundation, their roots, lacked that support and security. It's pretty simple. A nurtured, healthy childhood is the best way to build a resilient, healthy adult. So we're going to end on this question for you to think about. Knowing everything we've just talked about, that childhood is the foundation, the absolute root system of a person's life, it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What is our collective responsibility to make sure those roots, the roots of our future, are as strong and as healthy as they can possibly be?